What can you tell us about your experience as a global diplomat?
Well, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience for someone who, in his heart, is probably an anthropologist. So that the opportunity to see and at least understand a little more of the way different cultures perceive the world, I think was a very rich and wonderful privilege, actually. So, to live in Brazil and become a little tiny bit Brazilian, or to live in Indonesia and become a little bit Indonesian, and to live in Nepal and become a little bit Nepalese, is something that I carry with me in my life, and I think it makes the world a much richer place. It's kind of like, if you will, if you go to the jungle and visit the Indians, and you look around and you see leaves and trees and ground and sky. But when the Indian looks at the jungle, he sees much more. So when you live in another culture and you begin to become sensitive to many more subtleties, and the experience becomes more meaningful and richer, and I think your whole life becomes richer. So I think that's the big part for me. And of course, I was happy to represent the United States and try and explain our culture and our political system and our economy to people all over the world who often have a very limited exposure to the US, and it's only through some very narrow channels of communication. And as you know, Eduardo, much of my work was to try and create additional channels. So someone who went to the United States and went on one of those seminars, traveling seminars, and come back, and they could say, well, this is what I saw, this is what I experienced. And so that creates something other than what you might get on local TV or in the art of Pernambuco. When we had a professor go teach in an American university for a year with a Fulbright program.
Professor from Brazil, for example.
A Brazilian professor. And comes back to Brazil. He or she brings back, that experience, that point of view, and can share it. So I feel like I was very happy to be in that kind of position, dealing with the cultural community, dealing with the educational community, dealing with the press. And certainly here in Pernambuco was wonderful. You know how much I enjoyed that.
And you also government people like.
And government people as well. And we invented some new programs. I met a lot of really wonderful people. And so it was a lot of fun.
And what's like being married to a Brazilian and living in Hawaii?
In the back of my mind, I have a dream of writing a book about a manual for cross-cultural marriage. I have several friends who are married cross-culturally.
Yeah.
And, again, I have to say something similar, because your world becomes richer, deeper, with more flavor. And whether it's the fact that Ella makes wonderful rice and beans or brigadeiros, or when we do a party, she's teaching people how to do samba. And we throw great parties. And it's, people are drawn to the beauty, to the joy within Brazilian culture. And she's responsible for most of our social life because she brings that wonderful Brazilian relationship and joy. So, sure, sometimes we see things differently. Whether it's she wants the children to live next to us for the rest of their lives, and she wants us to be guiding the children constantly. And for me as an American, no, the child has to go out. Or sometimes it's everything from clothing, you know. Brazilians like to be alinhado, and it's a strong cultural value. And Americans will dress with contrasts that for a Brazilian are really common. And there are times when I want to go out, and nobody says, you know, that shirt and that pants, that's not good. Or in Hawaii in particular, we're very casual. As you know, we go out,
the tropical.
chinela, and you know,
Havaiana.
down.
Havaiana.
Havaiana. You remember when I went to that program at 4th of July at the embassy last year?
Yeah, last year.
And everyone was there in Tiano, so I came in with a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
And certainly it was the only Hawaiian shirt in the crew. So there are times when Elder thinks maybe I'm a little too informal, you know, I should clean up my act a little more.
Yeah.
But of course, we like Hawaii because you have some of the same wonderful characteristics that you have here. It's tropical, right? People are friendly. As I was mentioning, I like Pernambuco. I like the northeast of Brazil because I find people friendly. You know, you can open a conversation anywhere, anytime. People will make lovely little gestures of generosity. And you find that in Hawaii too. There it's called aloha.
Aloha.
And it's a puxa conversa. There we call it talk story. And to the same extent that you have your gíria here, oxê, and a variety of gíria in the north. There we have pidgin, which is a mixture of English, Hawaiian, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, and it all gets mixed together in a wonderful, special kind of dialect. That's really enjoyable.
Are there many Asian people living in Hawaii?
Many. Yeah.
In Japan? From what countries?
Japanese, the Philippines, China, some Thailandese, Vietnamese, and then of course, you know, Australians and so forth. The ones you will notice the most are the Japanese and perhaps the Filipinos. And in the same way that Japanese appeared in Brazil, where they came as laborers to work on sugarcane plantations or that kind of thing, they were imported to the islands to do that kind of work, and over time became involved in business and finally administration. And you know, the governor of Hawaii is David Ige, and we've had many governors and political people of Japanese descent. Same thing with the Portuguese. We have lots of people of Portuguese descent on Maui, and particularly in the area I live, which is on the sides of the volcano, Haleakala. And we have lots of people with Portuguese last names. We've got some Carvalhos in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some Carvalho's trees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trees. Yeah.
So it's a place of a lot of mixture, a lot of different flavors, a lot of friendliness, nice weather, very good security. Crime is very low. You don't have to be paranoid living there, which is a great advantage. And people are very welcoming. So it's a pleasant place to live. I think Elda likes it. There are enough Brazilians there. You know, she can have a Brazilian support team. But our friends include, you know, Japanese, Puerto Ricans, of course, gringos, etc. It's a very mixed group, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. How do you keep busy and enjoy the life?
Well, it's funny. I was never interested in gardening, and now in the morning,
There is no slope, like.
that's right. There's no stove. In the morning, I usually go and I exercise in some way. 3 days a week, I'm at the swimming pool at 5:30 in the morning, and I swim for 45 minutes. I come back, make breakfast and help Ella to get out the door, and then I go out in the garden, walk around, inspect things, do a little bit of work, not much, and then I have to administer property a little bit. I also try and keep up with the news of what's going on with the world and stay in touch with friends. Occasionally I take courses and I do a little writing and a lot of reading. A lot of reading. So I don't find it hard to keep busy, and I have to go, visit the properties and look at what's going on. So I also am a translator for the court. I translate.
You teach Portuguese.
And I teach Portuguese at the college now and again. I teach French and Portuguese and Spanish. And then I'm a substitute teacher in Spanish at a very, very good private school as well.
How many languages do you speak?
I can get by, and I don't know, certainly well. English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Swedish, Indonesian, and a little bit of Chinese. So, I can claim I'm pretty strong in five languages, and, the other three are all right.
How did you follow up the education of your daughters?
Well, in terms of following up, our system is one where many of the decisions are made in the beginning. And trying to decide where they will go to school is the big question. And with both girls, we took extensive trips to visit universities, primarily on the West Coast. And I worked with them in terms of analyzing universities, which ones would be of interest, which ones would be financially accessible for us. And, Catherine applied to, 6 universities and got into 5 of them, I think. And then it was a question of who made the most interesting offer and which one she liked the best, having visited them. And, some of that is certainly in her head. In Victoria's case, she did not apply to so many. I think she applied to 3 and got into 2, and we chose the one that she liked the best in terms of its locale and the scholarship available. So it was fun. I was trying to get my daughter to be interested in schools on the East Coast, and she really was interested. And she wanted to be near a bigger city. She was accepted, for example, at the University of Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, where Bernie Sanders is from. And my mother went to the University of Vermont. My cousin went there. Both my cousins went there. It's a very good school. It's considered sort of Ivy League. And she said, no, the town is too small. It's too isolated. I don't want to go there. She probably could have gotten accepted at my university, Dartmouth College, Ivy League school, good school. And she said, no, it's too isolated. I want to be near a big city. So in the end, she chose the University of Puget Sound, just on the edge of Seattle, where it's a smaller town, but it's near the coast, and Seattle is right there. So then in terms of choosing a career, it takes a while. Our system is quite different from the Brazilian system, because for the first year or 2, or sometimes 3 or 4, you're testing. You're taking this kind of course and that kind of course.
Flexible.
Very flexible. Many of them are what we call survey courses, in which you find out the general field of economics, or maybe the general field of art history. You do a survey of literature, of political science and see what really interests you. But in truth, Eduardo, the undergraduate program is really only a bit of a foundation. And a lot of times it's the graduate program, which is really good.
Yeah, they are planning probably to go to graduate programs.
Yeah.
Did they save money for that purpose? Undergraduates?
Well, of course, that's always a big issue. As you know, education in the U.S. can be horribly expensive. And luckily, you have this huge variety of possibilities, ranging from community colleges, which are really pretty expensive.
2-year college.
A 2-year college, let's say $1,000 a semester, to $30,000 a semester at a university. And many universities have financial aid programs or work study programs, or they help you locate money that will help go to school. There are many, 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 many scholarships available for all kinds of things, either for achievement, like merit scholarship, or achievement. Foundations have scholarships. Corporations have scholarships for people interested in their particular field. Right? There are also lots of loan programs, many of which are being revised because the federal government makes a lot of financing available through banking institutions. And we've had a problem with student loans over the last 10 years where they were too expensive. And so that system is currently being revised to make college less expensive. And I believe that some of the candidates in the 2016 election are proposing free university education. So I think there's a strong recognition of how important university education is.
Free.
And I think there will be more possibilities. I can't say that we'll reach free university education immediately, but I think there's a push in that direction. And finally, of course, many, many parents, myself included, before I was married, when I got a job, I started putting some money in U.S. savings bonds, which is one program in which basically you don't see that money. It's taken out of your paycheck and put in government bonds. They don't pay so much interest, but it's very steady.
It's safe.
And throughout my whole career, I put money aside for the education of my children before I had children. And so now when the time came, I had at least a little money to put in that direction. And thank heavens I did. And the nice thing about that program is all of the interest that you earn on those bonds is not taxed if you apply the money to college education.
Como foi sua experiência aqui em Recife, no projeto ABA? Que lembrança você tem dessa experiência?
E me sinto sumamente privilegiado de ter experimentado esse começo de ABA, desenvolvimento de ABA, e continuar essa relação com a ABA. E que é um programa muito, muito, muito admirável, no sentido que tem incorporado os temas mais importantes de hoje, neste mundo que temos. É dizer, que uma educação global, uma educação tecnológica, uma educação para funcionar em time, não é? E claro, um ensino de inglês e intercâmbios que permitem aos estudantes ter essa visão do mundo que já falei, e compreender muito mais e lidar com pessoas de outras culturas. Então, eu considero esse série de programas na aula ser brilhante. E sempre o que me impressionou muito também foi o nível pessoal aqui, o corpo docente, os administradores, que compartem uma visão de excelência, claro, mas também de entregar uma dedicação aos estudantes e à organização, um espírito de corpo que acho que realmente não é fácil criar. E eu admiro muito essa administração, o que você tem feito nesse aspecto. Porque cada vez que tenho visitado a ABA nos últimos
Tem vindo sempre aqui, né?
24 anos, sei lá, muito.
26 anos.
E eu vejo, mesmo com toda essa expansão de programas, pessoal orgulhoso, contente, estudantes também. Eu vejo essa atmosfera. As pessoas estão gostando de estar aqui e aprendendo e atuando a vida social, a vida profissional. Para mim, verdadeiramente, é um prazer. Eu fico com antecipação cada vez que eu venho visitar Recife.
E toda vez que você vem, você nos ajuda a renovar nossas energias
Espero
e
que sim,
sonhos e vontade de fazer cada vez melhor. Last question: how was your involvement in the basic education of your daughters? Elementary and
Okay, so elementary through
and
high school.
through high school.
You know, I told you that one of the reasons that I retired early was to be able to spend more time with my children. And I was able to have a pretty satisfactory involvement. For example, I was the vice president of our parent-teacher association at Pukalani Elementary School for, 2 years anyway. I spent time with my daughter's classes. I would go into their class and read books to them.
Read book, storytelling.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss.
Dr.
Listen, green eggs and ham, right? I did programs of junior achievement, basic business concepts and ideas. I would go into classes not only at my daughter's school, but at some other schools as well. And then, of course, finally, as a substitute teacher, when they got into high school, I was involved there too. And the junior high, they went to a very special junior high school. It's called a Waldorf school.
Waldorf school.
And it's originally a system of education developed by Rudolf Steiner in Germany. And it emphasizes using arts to teach educational skills and teach a love of learning. And it has heavy emphasis on doing. The children create their own textbooks, for example. And I was involved there in many, many programs. I have always tried to volunteer at the schools where my daughters were studying. And it gives a lot of satisfaction. And of course, the best schools always look for parental involvement. So, as I say, Pukalani Elementary, I would read to the kids. I did junior achievement there. I would accompany them on field trips. When my daughters were in middle school, particularly Catherine's class, I organized a trip for them to go from Maui to Washington, D.C. and New York. And I put the whole trip together for them and went with them along with a couple of other parents. The schools always have the parents involved in fundraising fairs of one kind or another. And I'd go and make telephone calls asking for support.
I thank you for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Eduardo.
And have a nice trip back to Hawaii, and you welcome back to Recife soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for a nice reception.